What's going on, everybody? Today I wanted to do another analysis on the third franchise, particularly Lupin as a character. I did this last time with the version of Lupin from Castle of Cagliostro. I wanted to do a kind of overarching analysis on Lupin as a character. I'm going to go back and do all the ones from like the parts and like certain TV specials or movies that really sticks out to me. But I wanted to do this one just because Lupin is generally the same person. Like, he has the same likes and dislikes, but he's not completely the same. He has different iterations of the character because different people have touched the franchise. There's a lot of hands in the pot when it comes to Lupin, so I wanted to do a video where I analyze Lupin as a whole so that you could get a basis for who he is as a person. So if that's what you're into, stick around, leave a like, subscribe if you're new, and let's get into it. There's a couple of disclaimers I wanted to get out before I begin. The first one is this is less of a narrative analysis of Lupin and more of a characterization of him as a person, mentally who he is as a person. So you're gonna hear me say a lot of things that would be true of people in real life. Now, obviously Lupin is a character, right? And obviously he was written for a reason. If you're interested in that, the basic reason why Lupin exists as a character, what his character archetype is called a gentleman thief. Like his granddad, Arsène, those books by Maurice Leblanc, he's a gentleman thief created to critique corruption in government spaces in high-end society, right? So he's like this guy that is critiquing everybody around him because he might be a thief and he might wear different masks, but the reality is he's better than the people who are in power, right? So that's the same thing that is here, and that's narratively why he exists as a character. That's why he's always saving the day. But I'm taking that and I'm looking at it as in universe, like who is Lupin as a person. So I just want to get that out the way. Another thing is, because this is a general Lupin analysis on finding the common ground among all of the different types of Lupin, I'm going to be speaking in generalities here. I have a couple quotes from certain places where people put a little bit more emphasis on the characterization, but generally speaking, you should treat this as a starting point when you go into each of the different types of the character. This is not going to describe part 6 Lupin to a T or part 4 Lupin to a T. This might be the general basis for it, but it's not going to be everything. I want to get that out the way. The last thing I want to talk about is the fact that Lupin is a very complicated person. It's hard to tell when he's being serious and when he's being comical, when he's being a showman. It might seem like I'm making contradictory statements, and I am trying to be as consistent as I am. I'm not trying to excuse some like future mistake. And if you do find a mistake, definitely let me know in the comment section. But Lupin is a very multifaceted character, and he requires some thought when you're thinking about him as a person because he loves to perform, right? We have to keep that in mind when we're talking about him. So let's get started into what I consider to be the 3 pillars of Lupin's character. So the 3 pillars that I have for Lupin's character is freedom, aesthetics, and identity, right? So I have to break these down so you can see where I'm going with it, especially the aesthetic one. So first one is freedom, right? Lupin loves being able to do whatever he wants, go wherever he wants, and then be able to follow his heart, right? That's what he said in Lupin Zero in the second to last episode, I think, where he was talking to Jin and he realized he wanted to be a thief, the type of thief that follows his heart. So he wants to be able to go anywhere, do anything he wants to. And this is something that Monkey Punch got from the classic tales of Arsène Lupin, because in that original one, Arsène is talking to somebody in the first book, and he's like, why should Lupin be tied down to one look? Why should he be tied down to one thing? He should be able to go anywhere. He should be able to look like anything. And that's what he takes over and he puts into Lupin as a character. So you have this guy who wants to do whatever he wants, whenever he wants, and that's like the crux of his character. That's something that he thinks is really important to him. And we see this theme in the TV special Island of Assassins, or In Memory of Walter P38, where Lupin is dealing with somebody who is trapped in her circumstances, and she's talking to him about freedom. Wow, because she's trapped in this like organization and she wants to be free because she doesn't like it. And so she gets her experience, she gets to experience the freedom, and she's talking to Lupin, and Lupin pretty much tells her, hey, like, I live my life and I'm completely free, and there's some things that I have to do to be free, but I do it because it's something that I cherish, something that's really important to him. And every once in a while, Lupin will say it that he just cares about freedom. He just does whatever he wants. He even talks about in another TV special where he says whatever he sees, he steals. I think it was in 7 Days of Rhapsody where he's like, where someone asks him like, what's your end goal? And he's, I don't have an end goal. I just steal what I want. Whether it's this, whether it's that, it doesn't matter. I just do what I want. I steal what I want. And that's pretty much that. In the Mystery of Mamo ending song in Japanese, the lyrics talk about this guy who just goes wherever he wants, steals whatever he wants. He sees something, ooh, I like that, let me take that. So that's something that's important to him, freedom. Now, I'm gonna cover the identity first because I think the aesthetic part has to be defined a little bit more than the identity part, but the identity part is simple. Lupin is who he is. Right. Now, obviously, who he is changes depending on the situation. Originally, I had this as being called authenticity to show that he is who he is and he's not ashamed of it. But authentic kind of gives the implication that he's true to himself, and Lupin always true to himself. He lies sometimes. He'll be different things depending on the job he's doing, so I didn't really see that being an adequate way to describe him. So I chose identity because Lupin loves to be himself. Like whatever he feels, that's what he's gonna do. It's tied into the freedom because like I have the ability to go wherever I want, do whatever I want, but with that he chooses to express himself, you know what I mean? So the freedom gives him the license to do whatever he wants, and then he chooses to express himself at whatever given time. So if he's mad, that's what he is. If he's sad, that's what he is. If he's happy, that's what he is. In part 5, when Ami is talking to Fujiko, she describes him as a very intense man. Also in part 5, we talk about this identity thing a lot, where Lupin is, I have to be myself. I want to live a life where I'm really excited and things like that. That's what it means to be Lupin. There's a lot of dialogue choices that imply that Lupin is something to aspire to, even for himself. It's something that he has to be, right? Because he wants to be himself. That's something that's really important to him. He chooses what he wants to do when he wants to do it, right? Now, there are some moments where he wants something at the beginning, but then as the story or a certain plot line unfolds, he changes, right? And he sacrifices what he wants for something better. But so there could be some times where it seems like he's not really pushing his own identity or what he wants over something else. But I do think that in those times he does change what he wants. He changes the order, right? And we're gonna get to that with the third one, but he will choose to stop pursuing what he wants for somebody else. But even then, I think that there is something to be said that he wants to be himself and he chooses to be himself, right? So that's identity, right? So we have freedom, identity. Now the third one is going to be a little bit hard, is aesthetics. Lupin loves beauty, right? He likes things that look good, feel good. He likes new experiences, right? I almost put hedonistic here, but it didn't really capture like a lot of different types of the character. It only captures one side, kind of like the Mamo side. But Lupin loves beauty. He likes beautiful women. He likes like pretty pieces of jewelry. He likes pretty views. He likes things like that. He also likes good food. He also likes fast cars. He just likes to experience a lot of things, right? He appreciates the finer things in life and he wants to experience a lot of that. And I mentioned in the last video, the Cagliostro video, is that when he was like in the earlier stages, like in 1969, 1970s, 1980s. Obviously, this is taking on more of a selfish role, right? He's, oh, I want this for me. I want this for me, this, that, and the third. I want the best food. I want the best woman, things of that nature. And he did have that kinder side to him, right? Where he will treat people with respect. He's not like a completely bad person. In a lot of the iterations, sometimes he just is, right? But he's not like a bad person in the sense that he's like wishing ill will or malice against anybody. He just wants what he wants and he will do a lot to get what he wants. And so that's who he is. But one thing that I personally noticed as more versions of the character develop is that he still loves to steal, right? And he still loves beautiful things. Like in part 4 in 2015, he takes Fujiko to Mount Fuji and like both of them are like admiring the view, right? And there's also in part 4, he steals like a jewel from like some teachers and he's like admiring it. He doesn't admire it for long, but he does admire it. He does think it looks good, right? And he also has moments where he can admire something in a way where he doesn't necessarily want it, right? Like in Cagliostro, he's admiring the view and she's gonna steal the treasure, and the treasure's too big for my pockets. I don't even know why she asked that question. How do you steal a view? Come on, Clarice, what are you talking about? But he does like these things. But I do think that another kind of beauty that he likes is like the beauty of, this is gonna sound lame, right? But the beauty of like humanity and self-expression. Like he's like a humanitarian, if that makes sense. So like he sees the value in human life, and I think that there's a beauty in that. And the reason why I say that is because being true to somebody's inner nature is something that he really values, even though he's not always true to other people. It's something that he really values with other people around him. And so like with the people around him, like in part 5, Enzo said that a word to describe Lupin's relationship with his friends are like trophies. And Goemon took that to mean that he doesn't value me as a person, but I don't think that's true. I think that Lupin likes to admire people who are genuinely impressive. I think that's a form of beauty. Like how good Jigen is with a gun, or how good Goemon is with a sword, or how good Fujiko is with whatever she's doing. I think he genuinely admires that in people. I think that's a form of beauty that he likes, because I do think that Lupin respects people who are like him, who just kind of live life on their own terms. And I do think that he does like talent. I do think that he can appreciate people who are really good at what they do, because I think that personally, and this isn't really stated anywhere, this is something that I picked up. Let me know what you think in the comments. But I get the sense that the reason why Lupin loves to learn, because he says sometimes he's a lover of knowledge, the reason why I think he loves to learn is because of the fact that he wants to experience so many things in the world, but he might not know how. He might not know how to steal that thing. He might not know how to talk to that girl. He might not know how to do this. He might not know how to do that. So he's learning different ways to get what he wants. And I think that might be why. Again, it's not really stated anywhere, but that's something that I've picked up from looking at like different ways he interacts with people, because you would think that somebody like Lupin doesn't necessarily need to be kind or respectful or go out of his way for people like he does, right? And he used to not really do it a lot, but now with the more modern interpretations, he does that more. And obviously outside of the universe, the reason why he acts like that is because tastes have changed, right? What is considered normal in society has shifted a little bit, and Lupin has to be able to interact in that world. So he can't really act the same. So they change him, things like that. It also just depends on who's writing him at the time. But I think that within the universe, and again, these are general principles that kind of apply to all of them, all of the versions of the character, but I definitely see him really caring about people. And it's one of those things where, how do you balance his selfish nature with his genuine care for people, right? That's where I get this idea of aesthetics and beauty and treasure, right? And Lupin himself has a flexible definition of treasure, because in part 6, he says that the most valuable treasure is woman. That's what he believes, right? Now, obviously, women are not objects. And I don't think that Lupin means to objectify women when he says that, but I do think there is that treasure there, right? It's the same thing when Enzo said that Lupin's friends are like trophies to him. It's not the objectification of it, it's the admiration of it, because that's how Lupin was taught from a very young age to view things. It's just who he is, and that's what he does. And so his definition of treasure and beauty tends to be more malleable than just objects or even like people, right? Lots of things are valuable to him. So that's why I have that in the aesthetic part. And I really had to bring that out because treasure means a lot of different things to him. And I think that his friends are his treasures. Like in part 5, what Enzo said, women are obviously treasures, like what he said in part 6. And he, like I've mentioned with Cagliostro, and in part 4, he's known to like admire views and like things that aren't necessarily treasure. And sometimes he will give up the treasure if he thinks something is more valuable. I do think he thinks that human life and human potential is more valuable than treasure, which is why I think he chooses to steal, because I brought this up in Cagliostro. Because how do you get something without tarnishing it or desecrating its beauty or damaging it? You steal it, which is why I think stealing is such an important thing to him. Stealing is also important because it's something that he grew up with. Even though he rejects the way his grandpa and his dad stole, he doesn't reject the act of stealing itself. So there is obviously that there too. But I do think stealing is a means to an end for him, just because he can steal things and he can operate in this way where he can be free and steal what he wants, not necessarily damage the thing that he's stealing and still enjoy it and things like that, right? Because I do think that despite Lupin being a nice person, I do think that there is a selfish part to him to where he does want to keep the treasure. Like in part 4, he steals money and keeps it, right? He steals the Mona Lisa so that he could sell it for money to eat. So there is that element of, I'm going to be selfish here. This is something that I want. But it just depends on the situation he's in and whether he wants to curb that or not. I think that's all I have on my notes for the character. So thank you guys for watching. If you guys liked it, go ahead and leave a comment, go ahead and subscribe, like the video, things of that nature. I plan on doing every major iteration of Lupin as a character, all the parts, all the movies, and then like select TV specials that I think stand out. But I hope you guys enjoyed it, and like I said multiple times in the video, I know that this is kind of like a generalization for all of the Lupin characters, and or at least his characterizations, just because I know that each one has a different nuance to them, each one has a different thing that the director is trying to portray. But I wanted to just do a general one where you can see all of the main points for each one, and then we can go in with this groundwork and then look at the other one. So hopefully you guys enjoyed that. If you did, definitely show it in the comments and that like button and subscribe button, and yeah, I will see you guys next time.